And we're in. We're live.
Jesus.
We're live, pal.
All right. So, hello.
Is that we're live live? Is that how you're
I'm
opening
going.
it?
I'm
Is
going.
yep, okay.
All right. Welcome everyone to the last episode of what we're calling the first series of Brass Ringers, where we take a look at some of those wrestlers that, for whatever reason, never climbed to the heights that we feel they may have done in a different time. And this week, for our last wrestler, we're looking at the man from our own soil, Mr. William Regal, which is quite exciting because William Regal, I feel like, has sort of been in my life for as long as I've been watching wrestling. Like and a big part of it, like I think NXT is the best wrestling show on television, and he has been an irreplaceable part of that basically since it began. And then way back when, like I remember William Regal. I remember him in WCW, WWE. I mean, he's had just such a long career. I suppose when you started watching wrestling, was he there at the time, or were you going? So I'll just keep talking. All right, I'll launch into
No, I'm
the
back. It's fine. It's fine. I had double
biography.
audio going on. That's fine. I've fixed it. Few technical issues. I've switched the setup. Things are changing. Yeah, William Regal has been around. Yeah, for as long as I've been watching wrestling. You know, when I started in the early 2000s, he was there. I just missed him as Commissioner Regal. And he was one of these characters who would disappear for like a year or two, then come back, be quite like important on the show, then disappear for a year or two, then come back, then disappear, and then of course GM NXT Regal, who I think is now the longest serving GM that any show has ever had at this point. If I'm not mistaken, he must have been doing this now for 8 years at this point, if not longer.
Oh yeah. Even not longer. Yeah, it's a long time. And so just a brief overview of his career. As I say, born just outside Wolverhampton in the UK, wrestling fan growing up, and really early on decided that was something that he wanted to pursue, and did that English wrestling scene. I think. Um, just caught the end of ITV's World of Sport. I think he was on UK television and just caught the end period of that as that was sort of dying out. Toured all over Europe, really honing his craft, really like technically proficient, and did have, we think of him in WCW in the 90s, but did have some tryouts with WWF. They were doing like these UK, I think it was called Rampage, WWF UK Rampage. They had these like UK only shows. They were like house shows.
Yeah, they used to be in
As a
the
sort of
Albert Hall,
tryouts.
I believe, is where they started doing
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is interesting. We've gone back to doing that. So he wrestled for them twice. Eventually finds himself signed to WCW in 1993, which is like really super early, really before I think WCW in 1993. That's really before the WCW that we come to know, isn't it? I mean, they're not really competing with WWF in 1993,
No,
or
we're
are they?
still.
I'm
I
getting that.
believe we're still early days at this point with WCW. You know, I don't think Nitro has launched in '93. I think that comes in '94, '95. So we're still not on the Monday
Yeah,
night circuit. Obviously, it's picking up
really
steam.
early
We've got
days.
WCW Saturday Night going. So he was a large part of that scene.
Yeah. But did win the television championship in that time, beat Ricky Steamboat for it at Fall Brawl. So that was a early success. Later on, 94 tonight, he joins a tag team called the Blue Bloods with Mr. Paul
The
Levesque,
game.
Triple H. Uh, the game. So they have a tag team for a while, and it's interesting because their gimmick is quite similar when you think of Triple H. You know, when you think of old Triple H when he was like Hunter
Mm.
Hearst Helmsley and the way the Regal thing where he walks to the ring. I actually never knew that they were in a tag team
Yeah.
together, but now like it makes so much sense to me. Like they both they both came out like that.
Do you
Yeah,
know that
so
Triple H,
relative
when he
success.
was doing that, just a total aside, you know he had a French accent,
Yeah,
or he
yeah,
tried
yeah,
to.
yeah. I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah,
Bless him.
yeah. Um, and yeah, so then goes on to this he has a lot of good matches with the likes of Benoit, Ultimo Dragon, like all those guys that were open the show, and they were really like great technical, fast-paced wrestling, getting the crowd hyped. Like he was part of that crowd. Um, and then joins WWF in 1998, goes back to WCW in 99. There's a little bit of back and forth there. Oh, by the way, he's Lord Steven Regal in WCW. And then mainly joins joins WWF basically full time in 2000, um, where he becomes the European champion, and he did actually win the Intercontinental Championship. He beat Edge at the Royal Rumble for the Intercontinental Championship. Uh, was in lots of different tag teams throughout his time there at WWF. Like you say, goes for a bit, comes back. He did have a problem in that time. He was addicted to like pain
Mm.
medication and Valium. Had to do some rehab. So there is a lot of like going away, coming back. He obviously really liked the guy and was just a mainstay all of that time, doing all kinds of things. Like I say, various tag teams, the Un-Americans, Raw general manager later on in the year, and then later on he becomes NXT
Well,
general manager.
my favorite period, and kind of the period that I grew up with, was the or like what I best know William Regal for is the 2008 William Regal. So he's on and off Raw GM at this time. He's
Yeah,
feuding for the. He has this amazing moment in. Uh, I believe it was in Manchester. It could have been Blackpool, but I know it was in England, where at the time Santino was the
yeah.
Intercontinental Champion, and he's doing his honkometer. I don't know if you have any knowledge of this.
I don't remember. No, I've
So
got no knowledge of that. I was
his
out at this point.
honkometer was basically comparing himself to the Honky Tonk Man, who was the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion at that point. Held it for 84 weeks, I
Right.
think it was something like that. And at this point, Santino every week he's bringing out the honkometer to show how close he's getting. And this is like week 3, and the match lasts all of 12 seconds. Regal just runs at him, hits the knee, wins the Intercontinental title in the UK. It's this amazing feel-good moment. Ends up feuding with CM Punk over the title, and I believe losing it to him in a great series of matches. Then he's
Yeah.
in the King of the Ring that year, which he wins, again beating CM Punk in the final. And this is where he becomes unhinged, deranged general manager, which lasts for a good year. And it's a really fun program. And then I remember the first show they ever did in Liverpool, which I went to. It was sponsored by the Honey Monster for some reason. It was the Honey Monster presents WWE Raw at Liverpool, and one of the main event
Yeah.
matches was William Regal versus Randy Orton for the WWE title. Should have known better. Of course, William Regal wasn't going to
Wow.
win the WWE title, but my God, I was so in. I was so ready for him to finally do it. And yeah, man, just great kind of memories of him growing up.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just such an illustrious career. So many programs like that he was in. It's you just can't possibly go into it all. Even later on in his career, um, 2000, I want to say like 2013, 2012, that kind of time, beginning of NXT. He literally has matches against like Cassius Ohno,
Yeah.
Cesaro. Like he's still wrestling these guys. I particularly really fondly remember the Cesaro one. Just this real like technical affair, and obviously it slowed down a lot at that point. Um, we'll touch on how his style changed as he sort of went along there, but that's a brief overview of his career anyway. So the the first match that I picked that I wanted to talk about was against the Ultimo Dragon who is featured on this show before, the Ultimo
Versus Dean
Dragon.
Malenko.
Big part of versus Dean Malenko, a big part of WCW at the time, clearly giving a lot of people a lot of very good matches. So maybe we should have talked about the Ultimo Dragon, but
that man walked around with
he's in there somewhere.
10 belts. We do not need to talk about him as underrated. he had his time.
All right. So the first match is against the Ultimo Dragon at WCW Slamboree in 1997. I knew nothing about this match going in whatsoever. The way I pick these is I just look online for the best of like William Regal matches, and I find the most commonly praised matches. This is how I found this. How did you feel about this match?
That's funny you say, because I was going to ask, like, how did this match be the one that came about, but that explains it. I enjoyed this match. It is not the match I was expecting. So I was expecting a very similar match to the Dean Malenko William Regal match, Dean Malenko and Ultimo Dragon match, just because of their wrestling styles are quite similar. So I was expecting that kind of, spoiler to the cruiserweight. But that's not really the match that we got here. We got shades of that, but it was very strange to see William.
It was kind of 50-50.
It's kind of 50-50, and it takes a little while in the match for me to go, oh, yet again, I think Ultimo Dragon's the heel here. Like I assumed that he was I assumed he was the face, and I think this is my prejudice that anyone who wears a mask and does flips is by default the face in my mind, but that's just not the case. One thing that I love, which is something they brought up on commentary, is the reason why Regal wanted this match. And he wanted it because in his mind, he didn't want the World Heavyweight title because the NWO had vandalized it, therefore tarnishing its reputation. And he didn't want the US title because he's not a US citizen, so why would he even want that? So it was the TV title that he was like, this is the belt to win. And I love little nuggets like that, where it's like, okay, we've got really good motive as to why someone wouldn't just always be going for the top prize, why they would be like, no, actually, I'll take the mid card title, which I loved. As far as the match goes, there's nothing in it that really stood out to me. If I'm being honest, is there anything for you that you were like, oh wow, this is?
Yeah, well, I really, first of all, I was amazed because I don't think I've seen much. Other when I was a kid, I don't think I've seen much William Regal when I was in WCW. I was amazed at the speed of the man.
He moves.
I mean, for a guy, he moves really quickly, but also like throughout the whole match. It wasn't a particularly short match. It was about 15 minutes long. And he is like, the way he's like snapping and falling to the ground and the flips that he's doing, and like, obviously an incredibly fit dude. And yet, you look at him, and I do want to like touch on the man's physique, because it is that
the body of an Englishman. Yeah,
British
absolutely.
physique.
I always remember as a kid that when I was a kid, it was Jakks Pacific that made the wrestling figures, and literally everyone had this same body, except for William Regal, who didn't have all the ab body. They were like, "You're
really?
soft, and we're going to make like him." Big Show and Rikishi were the only ones that had a different body type. I'm like, damn, don't be coming at the man like that. Having said that, I would love to have a body like William Regal.
Part of his. Yeah, well, he's clearly a very strong guy. I mean, he's got like no bum, and I don't imagine he's ever done many squats in his life. But like, clearly is a strong dude and fit as anything. He keeps up with Ultimate Dragon, no problem. And it's interesting because looking at this matches and I was looking on the forums and stuff like William Regal's matches, WCW, which is the one, and everyone's just like all of them. They're all because there aren't really. These guys were just going out and doing a job, and they were doing it well. And there weren't any like matches where it's like, oh, this is a real showcase, because it wasn't really like that. These guys had a job to do, and that was go out, do 10, 15 minutes, get the crowd hot, get them super involved, entertain them, and then go home. These aren't the big pay-per-view matches with month-long feuds and loads of hype leading up to them, So you could basically pick any match between any number of these guys, and they all kind of look like this, but super solid still, like slick, fast. It's a little weird, the 50-50 booking. I will say that. Like, it is weird that even like, oh God, I forget who's the manager's name? Yeah, Sonny Ono. Even him, like, Regal's just selling his like pathetic looking kicks as if the bullet
one
shots
thing
as
that I
well.
did
So that's a little
love
strange.
is towards the end of the match, we get this weird moment where Regal's on the outside, Sonny's giving him a kick in, and Ultimo Dragon comes out to get Regal, and at this point Ultimo Dragon's already given Sonny a bit of a bollocking, being like, don't do that, I can deal with this myself. And so Sonny gives him a kick in the back of the head to be like, ugh. And as Ultimo Dragon turns around, Regal just gives what looks like both the softest and the most painful just kick in the back of the head. Like, he just does that with his foot. And Ultimo Dragon does a proper like, which leads to a really nice reverse suplex into the Regal stretch, which I thoroughly enjoyed as the ending.
Not my favorite name for a finishing move, the Regal stretch. It sounds,
it's okay.
Doesn't sound...
What I do love that we get to at some point, and I'd love to know, I think Ken Shamrock was probably the first guy to implement it, but when there's a submission finish in older wrestling, I really dislike it because it's this weird... the referee goes over to them and they're like, what do you say? What do you say? And Ultimo Dragon just goes... he's not hitting the mat. He's just waving. He's like, I'm done. I'm done. Yeah. Because tap outs at this point aren't brought in. They don't do that until you see the rise of MMA becoming popular. So,
well, that's interesting. Recently. I was going to talk about as well. Another thing that happened. MMA. This just shows you how much MMA impacted wrestling. When people started seeing that, like, what real fights looked like. Then wrestling had to sort of keep up. And one of the other things that happens in this match is Ultimate Dragon gets Regal in an armbar. And then he's doing like the thing, like, you fight the thing, but then he like stretches the arm out and then he just sits there in it for like 10 seconds. And it's like...
They don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore. Now we realize that as soon as that arm is extended, you tap or your arm breaks, and like that comes from MMA as well. Like, we know the impact of an armbar. So it is interesting because a lot of this comes from, like I said, he's doing the grip. Like, he knows that that's how you defend the armbar and everything. A lot of it does come from real fighting, but it really took real fighting to be mainstream for them to sort of have to update themselves. And now you see so many wrestlers like Kyle O'Reilly doing so much stuff from MMA. So that is an interesting little factor though.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So
no more shown than this next match.
Which is the Benoit match, right?
Yeah, there's not much MMA in the last match, funny enough.
No, it's not. No. That's a good example actually, because it's an updated style at this point. So the match it chose was, and again it was between two. Like, these people were saying online that his matches with Chris Benoit. This one, which is the one what is Velocity?
Velocity is
Can you tell
heat.
me what Velocity is? Because I feel like you will know this. Right. Yeah. And this isn't on the network, any of this stuff, right?
They've got Velocity up until 2004 for some reason. with kind of the B and C shows that they have, or at this point, I guess E and F shows that they have, they're very slowly releasing them. So things like Velocity, old episodes of WWF Superstars. People are still waiting for them to
Right.
bring on Shotgun Saturday Night, which is a show that was filmed inside of a train station. It's very strange. And I can't wait for them to finally put all of that on the network.
Yeah. So there's this match, and this is a rematch from the one is it the Brian Pillman Memorial Show?
Yeah, was that a
I got that name
WCW
right.
show or a WWE show? Because the way they say it is a bit strange, and don't remember Regal being in or Benoit being in WWE when Pillman passed away. In fact, Benoit definitely wasn't in WWE when when Pillman passed away.
Yeah, it was a it was a I've got it here. It was a WCW show, Brian Pillman Memorial Show. So it was 5 years earlier.
Okay.
But at this point, I guess they bought WCW, so they could reference whatever's going on there. Oh, there was two. It doesn't matter. We're getting off track. Anyway, the point is, this was a rematch of a match that people said stole the show, was the best match of the night. So they're going to do it again. They get about 15 minutes. And how did you feel about this?
The first thing that this made me realize is how I feel like these shows are deliberately supposed to be proving grounds. And it's a real shame because no one watches them at the moment. Like, you look at WWE Main Event that they have now, the C tier show runs on, I think, a Tuesday. They film it before Raw. Yeah. And that's where you'll see matches like Ali versus Ricochet. Your 205 Live, stuff like that. Where I know they're having these amazing matches because they need to, this is their chance to go out there and show what they can do. And the reason why they can show what they can do is because no one's watching these shows. Benoit and Regal here put on a fucking clinic of wrestling. And no one watches it. Yeah. No one goes and watches it because it's on Velocity. No. And this match in particular will have been cut from when I was watching. So I see some of Velocity on a Sunday morning on Sky One. You'd get the full hour of Velocity and then you'd get an hour cut down version of SmackDown. So I'd get to watch Velocity, but there's no way they would have shown this match because of the blood in it so early in the morning. I can't imagine they'd have shown this. As far as the match itself goes, it's incredible. It's an absolutely amazing match, but I expect nothing. I kind of expected less because it's on Velocity. I was like, nah, this will be a weird match to talk about, but they'll do a bit here and there, and it's incredible. They're doing this amazing chain wrestling at the start that devolves into just headbutting each other that busts Regal open. Like it's pretty nasty, and then you're getting these incredible grappling sequences. There's an amazing one where Benoit's trying to get Regal in a full Nelson to hit a dragon suplex. And what Regal does, as his arms are going up, he comes down and grabs his leg, wraps his arms around his leg. So he's like, you can't pull my arms up, which is those little bits of psychology in the actual wrestling, in the physical wrestling are just so... I really like this match. I don't know if you can tell. I found it quite exciting. How about yourself? Because you've got a look of confusion on your face that's either, I don't know what Dale's talking about, we watched two different matches, or that's just your face without the beard. I don't know.
No. I was just enjoying how much you enjoyed
I loved it. And I don't want to like it either.
This is really... This is... Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean... unfortunately, when Benoit just gave a lot of these guys their best match, do you know what I mean? And WWF must just be like, they don't know what to do with that. They can't really do anything with that. So they could these matches, not only because it was on Velocity, but because it was Benoit. Like, it just lost the time. And it's so unfortunate for like the other guy in that situation, the
Oh,
Regals, the
absolutely.
Malenkos, or whoever it was. But yeah, this is my type of match to a T, and it really is an evolution of this first match where it's like it feels like a real fight, and that is for me is that's what I love wrestling to be. I love that the blood comes out early. I couldn't tell if it was a blade or
No,
not. I
that
think it
was that
was.
was
Um,
headbutt. They wouldn't. Again, this is Velocity. This is you're not blading for
oh,
a
so it is an
yeah.
accident,
You're not blading for a show no one's going to watch. So I mean,
right?
I would love to
Why?
hear from
See,
him,
this is
but
so strange to me because I just wasn't watching wrestling at
yeah,
all at
yeah,
this
yeah.
time, like zero. Like for me at this time, wrestling was like deeply uncool, and you should be ashamed of yourself, that kind of thing. Like so I just don't. This is so baffling to me. Like for me, this could have like been the main event of Raw in like a massive feud. Like
This is the equivalent of it
Why
being
was this on Velocity?
on the Backlash kickoff show. That's where we're at here.
Yeah, it's so strange to me. Like with these, like, because I thought that Benoit was
He'd
like
just
over
been
as
world
well,
champion
and
the
Regal is
year
like a
before.
mainstay and he's a big name.
It's insane. It's
Is it maybe to get people to watch this show that like no one's watching and they're still making? I mean, I don't even know why they make these shows still. So maybe it was like we'll put two big names on it. I don't know what it was,
who
but I
knows.
love that
It's
the blood just
a
adds to the blood really
yeah.
adds to the feel of the match.
Yeah. It was a
Yeah.
very different. I mean, this is 2005. So at this
Yeah.
point, over on Raw, you've got Triple H, I believe, as world champion. Over on SmackDown, it would have been probably Batista at this point. I don't know if Eddie Guerrero's passed away at this point, so that might have something to do with it. Kurt Angle's still around. Randy Orton's on the come up. Undertaker's. They plugged this a lot. Undertaker's taken on Muhammad Hassan at
Yeah.
the Great American Bash. So this is the day, if not the week before the 7/7 bombings would happen in London. And after that happens, there's quite a big shift in in SmackDown, specifically because of the Muhammad Hassan stuff. He's got his followers who are dressed like terrorists attacking the Undertaker, and it was like it caused massive problems. So there's a bit of a shake up after this.
I mean, it's as if it's like we're not that far removed from 9/11 either. Like as if that's appropriate. Do you know what I mean?
No, so it
But
totally wasn't appropriate, but it was the fact that
yeah,
that because and it was again it was just an unfortunate situation. SmackDown's pre-taped, so it's already taped. The 7/7 bombings happen, and then the very next day this airs. There's nothing they can do. It's already the angle's filmed, it's shot, it's already gone out. So I believe it was Sky Sports that were just like, absolutely not. Like, this is not okay. This is not something we're happy to promote. Not something any TV company is going to be happy to promote. And we're going to pull out of the. I assume there was talks of pulling out the deal because Great American Bash, Hassan's thrown off the stage and never heard from again. So what I'm saying is that we're definitely in a change at this point. So I kind of understand why Benoit would end up on this show. He's got nothing else to do. Let's stick him with Regal.
yeah.
It'll be a great
But
match. And it was.
it is a great match, and it really and it feels like a fight, and it's the kind of wrestling that I love. And you're right, it's an absolute clinic. Like, and I love the grappling exchanges. Like, I love the story of it. I love that it's just two tough men fighting. Like, that's what I want wrestling to be, and it shows how William Regal has adapted over the years. I mean, it's 10 years into his career, pretty much, when we see him against Ultimo Dragon. It's just shy of 10 years later when we see him against Benoit, and he's still been growing all that time. Although maybe I don't know whether he's slowed
I think
down
he
a bit at
has.
this point,
But at
or
this point,
whether it's just a different
at
style
this
of
point,
match.
we're in the 2000s. He started wrestling in the early, if not early 80s, if not late 70s. I'm not sure. You've probably got the when he started training. But
Yeah.
he's been going for a long time at this point. So if he is slowing down, like, not by much, and his style's adapting, I think he doesn't need to be as quick. It's the other opponent's job.
All right, so moving on to the last match then, which was at
Armageddon.
Armageddon
Six,
2006.
yeah.
Uh, so so I wanted to talk about this one because this is not what you think of when you think of a William Regal style match. So we've got him with Dave Taylor, who never heard of, versus the Hardys, not the Hardy Boys, who've been rebranded as the Hardys at this point, versus Paul London and Brian Kendrick. Paul London, no idea who that is either.
Oh man.
Versus this is really not my time, and I just have never gone back. In fact, a lot of this stuff, when the match that we watched last week, that was at Armageddon,
this is our second visit.
Big
to
cage
Armageddon.
match. What year
2000,
was that?
6 years later.
All right, so this is quite a bit after. Yeah. All right, versus Eminem,
your boy,
which is Joey Mercury and Johnny Nitro, who is now John Morrison, who's looked exactly the same and has had the same gimmick for 20 years. Like, he literally.
God, it's almost been 20 years.
Look any difference?
Terrifying.
Yeah. Well, 15 years, I guess. It's been 15 years. But yeah, I'm sure he's probably had the gimmick for a few years before that. And so, yeah, I wanted to talk about this one because it's a 4-way tag ladder match. And it's just not something you think of when you think of William Regal style. And yet he's known as this, like, technical wrestler with the grappling and the, like we discussed in the last two matches. So I wanted to see sort of how he fits in this picture. Never saw this match, didn't know, but I've seen a clip from this match multiple times that I didn't know until I was like, oh, that's where that's from. So I guess as soon as I mentioned this match, you were really excited about it. So tell me a bit about your history with this match and how you felt.
So we're in prime Dale viewing at this point. This is the long climb of Jeff Hardy's career to world champion in 2 years' time, who was my boy at the time. The pairing of, I'll talk about Regal first because it's important. The pairing of Regal and Dave Taylor always felt a bit odd to me. I mean, obviously it makes sense, but Dave Taylor is so the opposite of sports entertainment. Without being so opposite that it's interesting, if that makes sense. Like, it's just, and I don't know if that's just because we're English and we've seen this bloke in our local Weatherspoons. I don't want to watch him wrestle. And I don't know if for the Americans that's some weird exotic sight. I don't know. But
do you feel the same way about Danny Burch?
No, because Danny Burch is in really good shape, and he's got a bit of something to him. So I remember watching. Also, Dave Taylor's been there for ages. He was in WCW. You know, him, Regal, and Finlay were like the three UK representatives. I had to think then. I was like, he's from Belfast, Northern Ireland. Yeah, UK, it's fine. In fact, there's a photo of them right now, which is definitely from WCW based on the age of it. So I just never got this guy. Eminem, not a fan of, but I wasn't supposed to be. Joey Mercury, I've never understood why he was on that team. Because he doesn't look as, like, he's not the Hollywood looks of Melina or Johnny Nitro. And after this match, he most certainly isn't. The poor man. Like, my God, he is also, I think, the better worker at this time. I think Johnny Nitro is very impressive with the flips and all of that, but I think Joey Mercury was the better wrestler. Again, this is kind of, we'll go into the spot in just a second. And Paul London and Brian Kendrick, they were like during this time, they were pretty much the tag team. So they were the longest reigning tag team champions on SmackDown, like by a number. Like I think they held it for almost a year, if not longer than a year. They didn't really have any competition outside of Eminem. You had these kind of makeshift tag teams they'd put together, like Rene Dupree and Kenzo Suzuki, two names that you've never heard of. The Basham Brothers, the Heidenreich and Road Warrior Animal. They in the end they were beaten by Deuce and Domino. It's nothing. I'm speaking alien to you.
It seems to me like you're just making up. It seems like you're just making things up. Yeah, just making words up and saying
it's
them
my
next
favorite.
to each other.
So this tag team match, because you hear the crowd at the start as this gets announced. The second they find out it's a ladder match and it's a 4-way, they're waiting for the last team to come out and they're like, give us the Hardys. We know the Hardys are in this match. And I love the Hardys, and I'm not going into too much of that. This match isn't really, like, almost feels like an afterthought for Regal and Taylor. They spend a large majority of the match outside the ring and away from the action. It almost feels like they only get involved because of the awful spot that happens, and it's like, oh, we should probably try and help out at this point, because the awful spot is the worst. It's the seesaw ladder moment. Matt's holding Eminem's face over the ladder. Jeff jumps off the top rope, seesaws it into their faces, and the second it hits Joey Mercury, his face explodes into just a sea of blood.
What did they think was going to happen?
Well, I guess they thought what was going to happen was what happened to Johnny Nitro, which was he'd miss, but he didn't miss. When this spot happened, like in the build up to it, like as they're setting it up, did you go, oh, this is it? Or was it when he flicked his hair back and his face was...
No, it got me. It got me. His face exploded and it just starts pissing with blood. And you see a close up and it's like, oh my God, his nose is missing. There's just so much blood there. And then I remembered, it's this famous thing that they always talk about, ladders can screw you. And this is the clip that they always show.
And 2006 is a very different time to now, because my God, I don't know what the conversation was in the production truck, but clearly Kevin Dunn's just going, again. Can you get closer to his face? I really want to see in it. Where is he actually bleeding from? It's really awful.
It's awful, and the mat is covered in blood, and like all the wrestlers that just go in that area end up covered in his blood.
And
like,
this was
just horrendous.
I remember watching it, and there's the bit where Jeff's on the ladder outside and Joey Nitro does the drop kick and he falls off the ladder, hits the rope and lands outside, and his hair goes back, and I'm like, oh, his hair's in the blood. That's gross. That's horrible.
That's a crazy spot.
And this pretty much ended Joey Mercury's career for a long like he didn't wrestle for a while. He lost, I think it was like 80% of his vision in one of his eyes, which is still the case. Obviously his nose was shattered into 100 tiny pieces. He was really not okay after this spot. It's really a horrible moment for him. Luckily he's okay now. I think he's still a producer with WWE. I'm not sure.
Still works for them,
I know he's been through his troubles not too long ago, but I believe he is. Last time he was on screen was J&J Security for Seth Rollins back in the day during the whole authority bit. But yeah, kind of Regal's main job in this is to be the big man. Throw Kendrick about, be scared of climbing ladders, which is something that I absolutely love. That whole gimmick. What did you think of his involvement?
Yeah, it's funny. Exactly what you said. Like I was like, how does he fit into a match like this? And the answer was like, he doesn't really. Like he's gone, lads. I mean, I'll be in this match if you want me to, but I ain't doing all this shit like these young guys are doing, like throwing themselves all over the shop. There's some nice moments. So bit where he comes up the ladder, two of them come up the ladder and he just sells it like he's dead
Oh,
on the
that's
end of the ring
horrible. With Kendrick, where he goes for the sliced bread and he
with
just
Kendrick.
he
Yeah,
doesn't rotate
it's yeah,
and
it
almost
doesn't
breaks
hit
his
quite
neck.
well, and it's kind of gross. Yeah, there's another spot where like Johnny Nitro like jumps onto him like with the ladder, and he sells that really well. And there's the we didn't actually talk about in the Regal is actually really like a funny guy. Like this in his entrance in the first match we talk about, there's elements of that there. Like he's just got a charisma about
Oh
him.
yeah.
He comes out and he's like scowling at people, and it's really effortless for him. And then this great moment, yeah, where they're both like, I don't want to go up for some reason. He's like scared of heights, and he doesn't want to climb the ladder. It just he's a, and then as we know from like later on in NXT, he's just a really effortlessly entertaining, funny guy. Um, but yeah, the match is great. I mean, I love the match. I was like,
Mm.
oh, every
It's a
moment
car.
it's
It
one of
is
those like matches from its time.
full on car crash of a match. Like there are some
Yeah,
awful spots. There's an amazing. I totally forgot he did it, but Paul London does a drop kick, but it's like a backflip drop kick. So he gets up there, hits the
yeah.
kick, and then backflip. It's really impressive.
These
On
guys are like these guys have all got death wishes, like apart from
apart from Regal
Regal.
and
They're
Taylor,
just
yeah.
they are throwing themselves with abandon
Mm,
all over the place. And every time someone lands, I'm like, oh my god, that could have broken his neck. It
yeah.
was just so dangerous. But I love it because it shows how hungry they are, and that's what I think a lot of times is missing from this like modern product is it's safer, sure, that is a good thing. However, sometimes I do feel like you're just watching people do moves on each other,
Mm,
and I don't often feel this sense of like I'm gonna leave it all out there.
yeah.
And you can't do that in every match at all, but like it is refreshing to see a match like this where it's like these guys are like if it's my last, they're wrestling as if it might be their last ever match, and like I said with Joe Mercury, it turned out it was. Um,
He
but I
would
do love
wrestle
to see it.
again,
I love
but
to
it
see
was a
it.
while. It was like
Yeah,
5 years before he came back.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'd love to see it though, and it's so exciting, and it just makes for like you can't take your eyes off it. So, but yeah, it's unfortunate William Regal didn't play a huge part in this match and spent a lot of it on the ring apron. But
but I will
this
say
is but it is
of
what it
it
is.
is what it is. But of everyone that we've kind of everyone that we've discussed over this series, William Regal's by far the one that I feel like I've got that real soft spot for, and that real
Yeah,
like I am genuinely sad he never had a run as WWE champion. I even
it would have
remember.
been great. It would have been
I
great.
remember there was a SummerSlam in I want to say 2009, and one of the matches on it, and it was the match I was most excited for. So hyped for this match, and I'll say it, and you'll be like, yes, ECW Championship, champion Christian defending against William Regal. Now,
Yeah.
yes, please give me all of that. Num num num. I'm so excited for this match, and it starts with Regal's taking off his robe, and the bell rings, and Christian runs over, pulls the robe over his head, hits the kill switch, and the match is over. And I was so genuinely heartbroken because I was just like, come on, man. Like, could have been a clinic, could have been an incredible match, and I wanted to see him win. Regal's the guy who I think really should have been the first WWE champion from England.
Yeah.
Well, the first from
Yeah,
Britain.
which is why I think I know, a lot of it's funny actually. So it kind of makes Regal a sort of perfect person to end on because a lot of the guys that we've talked about, I can't remember them all a lot, but we seem to have been able to pinpoint, oh, that's why they weren't champion, or like, yeah, I sort of see it, and
Yeah.
they were great, but maybe it was right that they didn't. But with Regal, that's really not the case. I really think it's a missed opportunity because not only does he have the look and the charisma, and the in-ring skills, but he's also just so entertaining. And I really think that if they'd have put a belt on him, like he could have carried it. People could have bounced off him really well. It would have been really funny. He would have had great matches. Like, it really seems to me like a massive missed opportunity that he was never WWE champion.
And even, the time in 2008 where he was the like real heel GM, like there was nothing funny about him. He was deranged. He was controlling the show from literally every point. Like, he was in charge. He was going into production trucks and telling them to cancel the show during the main event. Like this real deranged character, and he was incredible at it. Literally anything you gave him, he ran with it. He did it with such ease. Whether you wanted him to be a real man's man and this weird like builder gimmick that he had, or you want him to be a proper blue blood, the bumbling Englishman, like whatever you gave him to do, he just did it. No problem. Like, he's incredible. And
he still does.
He still does. Like, every time he appears on NXT, he's
still... Yeah, he's my favorite, yeah.
We even get those little teasers. Like, with Adam Cole recently, where they're getting in each other's face, and you're like, oh, what I wouldn't give for one more match. Regal versus any of those NXT lads.
Yeah, I want it, but I want it, but I don't at the same time. But it's...
He's got that, he's got that traditional English body. Don't know how that's looking these days. Let's keep the leave the memories alone, I think is the best thing to do.
He's gotten, I would say,
he's better looking,
more handsome as he's aged. I think, he's really grown into. He's got this lovely silver mane of hair. He's
Regal would get it.
He's a really good-looking guy now in his older age. And as well, just to sort of add to his legacy, I think probably the best general manager of all time. Like, he is. I don't know if any general manager has had such a presence in a show as Regal has had, and that's testament to him and testament to the people who are writing it. And I know he's booking NXT partly as well, so
but the perfect.
He's got really great. I remember you pointing out to me.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I remember you pointing out to me a few years ago. We were talking about this in NXT, and we both love NXT and everything. And I remember you saying, Regal hasn't been there for like 12 months. And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course he has. Like, and he was like, no, he haven't, but you don't notice because everyone all the time is saying, well, I've just been to talk to Regal. I'm going to talk to Regal. And they'll show his door, and they'll show people like coming in and out. And like, they kept him on TV, and I just didn't even notice because everyone is talking about him all the time.
Yeah, I think he'd gone for surgery.
It just shows you what a sort of presence he is.
And the last thing I was going to say is he's used perfectly, because it is one of those where he's just used the right amount, like as a GM. In that, they're trying to do it at the moment with like Adam Pearce on Raw and SmackDown, and it's a bit weird because you're like, who is this guy? He's just the lackey for the higher ups. But Regal, he for the most part, you feel the show going, and if something gets out of hand, he just pops his head around the corner and he's like, lads, war games, and then he's gone again. That's it. That's all he does now.
Oh, he's great. I love the man. I love the man, and he should have been world champion. I think out of everyone we talked about, William Regal should have been world champion, and it was a missed opportunity that he wasn't.
100% there with you. That's it.
All right.
Season 1.
That is it. We are at the end. We've made 8 episodes of Brass Ringers, and here we are. We're at the end. Do you have any reflections on how this has gone publicly before we?
It's been fun. Would have liked it if more people had watched. I have no idea if anyone's watched today. I don't. The computer's over there, so I haven't been keeping it. Oh, hang on. Just as I say that, we get 2 comments. It's Dan. He says, evening, late as I had to have an emergency vet appointment, missed 2 weeks in a row. Boo. That's okay, Dan. We won't hold it against you. I hope the dogs are okay, and we both think Regal's amazing. I think that wraps it up.
Well, there we go. Well, that's a nice way to end. Dan, our single viewer. So we're gonna take some time. We're gonna take a week. We won't be here next week. We're gonna sort of reassess. I don't know what is coming the week after, but we're going to spend some time. We're going to think
Yeah, I
about
think we're going to
it,
hang up now
come at it from maybe a sort of
and
different
then go
direction.
and figure out what we want to do because, this is, screw it.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want.
But we can. But whether you're watching now or later or in the future, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you next time.